Councillor is here again for a new edition of Tête-à-Tête on Télécréole. We are pleased to welcome City Councillor Michelle Hu here on Tête-à-Tête. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I will quickly at least talk a little bit about you and your background, but today being December 1st, I wanted to take a few seconds to acknowledge the more than 34 million people who died since HIV/AIDS began in the early 80s. I myself have been part of this movement, given my professional work. So we'll take a few seconds again to acknowledge those who passed away and the 37 millions who currently have HIV in the world. So thanks again for joining us. I think that by then most of viewers or people who follow Boston politics know about you. You are a graduate from Harvard University Legal School. You became, at the age of 28, the youngest city councillor in Boston. And you are also the first city councillor of Asian descent on the city council. Well,
not the youngest ever. Larry DeCara was elected when he was, it must have been 21 or 22.
Fascinating.
So I'm currently the youngest, but as I say, they keep getting younger. And I'm actually the second Asian American, the first Asian American woman, but Sam Yoon served on the city council from 2005 to 2009.
I remember him very well.
Opened the door for
That's
Asian
true.
Americans.
So you're female one, actually,
yes,
councillor.
Yes.
Because I introduced the program talking about HIV and AIDS, any words you want to share with our audience about this epidemic on December 1st?
You know, in Massachusetts, we have had a long history of advocacy, and one thing that I'm very proud of is that we have organizations who have been carrying the torch and working hard for awareness, for research, for treatment, and making sure we're erasing the stigma of AIDS and HIV. I have met with some of the current leaders about different public health initiatives, and we in Massachusetts actually have, it's within our reach to end new infections of HIV. There's treatments available, there's insurance coverage, so part of what we need to do in the public sector is to really highlight the work that's happening and continue to draw awareness to it, continue to make sure people know and are able to access healthcare.
When you say met with leaders in Massachusetts, in what sector, what area?
Oh, sorry. The AIDS Action Committee in Massachusetts has done and continues to do great work on in this sector, and I'm very eagerly following their lead in trying to highlight some of the this campaign to end new infections.
Right. Now in Boston, has funding either decreased significantly to the point that this is affecting certain communities that in the past, either in the late 90s or the early 2000s, used to have more funding to be able to do some either advocacy work or get more treatment for their caseloads or even do more prevention work. There's a sense that even in the Haitian community, some programs or some agencies that devoted a lot of time and resources and energy to HIV/AIDS are no longer. So this has been a concern. What's your sense of resources?
Yeah, and I would say that now, more important than ever, to engage the organizations that directly interact with the community and that speak for communities of color, for immigrant communities, communities who are disproportionately affected with the epidemic, and we need to make sure that the resources are available so that people from all backgrounds know that there should be access to care.
And the way you are addressing the issue now publicly, does that mean that people, whether stakeholders or agencies, may reach out to your offices to understand how they can collaborate for?
Yes, for this issue and for healthcare, for any issue really across the board. The City Council is here to listen and to at least, if not help on the issue itself, if it's not within our power, to connect you to the leaders or agencies who are doing it, to connect you to the levels of government that are able to affect things. So I very much see my office as the first and last stop for residents, and people should feel free to contact us anytime.
Right. Councillor, I went through again your bio, resume, and your website, so there is a wide range of topics that I think we could address, and it might be maybe a first stop for you here on the Telecreole. But I want to say that last week, right before Thanksgiving on the 26th, Jefte Sherry was caught in a crossfire happening in the Fenway area. He wasn't part of it. People were just maybe aiming at each other, and he happened to be a passerby, and he died at the age of 29. He was known to be a young man who started cleaning cars for the MBTA on the Green Line, and then became a driver and was aiming to become an engineer. So what does that tell you as a city councillor, that a young man of 29 who had dreams, because he came from, his parents are from Haiti, trying to realize those immigrant dreams, and then this is how he passed away. How do we address those issues?
You know, so many communities are mourning his loss, and from what I had read, he certainly seemed like a young man of incredible character and work ethic, and the type of leader that we would expect great things from. It's completely unacceptable that gun violence and violence in our city continues to take lives, continues to take young lives full of potential and promise. You know, it's a national crisis around gun violence, and I know our mayor and the administration and the council in Boston are very much focused on trying to eradicate, make sure we are getting rid of illegal guns, which are the guns most often used in crimes, that we are not just getting guns off the street in Boston and in Massachusetts, but also trying to address the fact that many of these weapons flow across borders from other states. And most of all, it's creating pathways of opportunity for all of our youth in the city to make sure that youth see a future for themselves in Boston, that there are job opportunities, that there's a way to get to economic stability without having to turn to violence and gang involvement and other, I believe, lack of economic opportunity that underlies our public safety issues.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think prior than being elected in office, you had released some 50 points across different areas or domains. And I think that safety was one of them. Are there specific provisions among those 50 points that are still valid today and that may help address these type of issues?
Yes, one of the points, so the goal of releasing 50 ideas was to say, in city government, there are many things that we can do tangibly and that we should strive to accomplish, and not just sort of dream big dreams, but actually talk about how to get things done. Public safety is fundamental for our communities. The issue came up when I was meeting with families who were concerned about their kids being able to get to school safely. It came up when I met with business owners who said, if our streets aren't safe, I can't get workers to come and work in my restaurant or business at night. I can't get customers to come. So in some of the smallest instances, adjusting things like street light and making sure that an area is well lit at night and that residents and customers and employees feel safe going back and forth, and then again addressing the larger issues of how do we really make sure that we are providing economic opportunity and pathways, focusing on small business opportunities, entrepreneurship, the restaurant industry, a lot of these immediate jobs, sectors that have employment opportunities now, so that we are making sure our youth have a clear way to support themselves, support their families, and we can get at this issue of public safety.
That brings me to connecting what you are describing here to the whole concept of economic opportunities and then starting new businesses. You are describing opportunities for those youth to be able, for example, to open their new businesses I understand that you started something unique back when you were an entrepreneur in Jamaica Plain, paving the way or mapping how to get from A to Z to open a restaurant. And I wanted to have your thought about how do we facilitate this process, not just to youth, but also to immigrants who may have to deal with either language barrier or who may not have the technology or the savvy to access things online, or who feel that it's intimidating to actually negotiate City Hall. What do you have in place, or what do we have in place to make sure that this actually becomes an easier process, either for those youth or for those people who have all those issues and potentially lack of access to loans from the banks?
Absolutely. So I have been on a, let's see, probably 8-year journey now to focus on simplifying processes for small businesses. And it started when I had my own experience. There were some family issues, and I ended up leaving a job in Boston, going back to Chicago where my family was living, opened up a little business there, saw firsthand how complicated it can be and how frustrating it can be when you pour your life savings and your time and your energy into a project that's supposed to help the community, only to have government make you wait and wait and wait and wait. When I came back to Boston, I worked at the Jamaica Plain Legal Services Center to try to help other entrepreneurs get their businesses off the ground, and then was later able to work in Mayor Menino's office, putting together a guide to put all of the rules in one place from A to Z. What do you do? Today, from a role as an elected official, I feel very lucky to be working in collaboration with an administration that has really prioritized permitting and licensing. So we saw for the first time very archaic things like the typewriters that used to be used at inspectional services finally retired and for the most part thrown away, so things could be internally done in a more organized and efficient way through the online system. We now see the entire system online, so people can walk through it and not have to leave their home, but can access, as you say, not everyone has internet, but for those who do, or those who have a smartphone, can at least begin to understand the process of how do you start. Before you had to take time off work, then go in person just to pick up the paper, to read the instructions. All of the information should be available, and it should be as easy. These days you can open a bank account online, you can buy a car online, you should be able to do your whole process online too. And for those who need help with translation, interpretation, language access, or assistive technology access, or not being able to get online, we want to make sure that there are hubs available to help. So hubs in your local libraries to access the internet, Wi-Fi now introduced at many parks and other public places throughout the city. And on the language and communications front, really making sure that we have we recognize that the immigrant community has some of the highest incidences of owning small businesses.
Correct.
You can come to this country, no matter what your level of education is or how well you speak English, you can make a living for your family and make your neighborhood better by opening a business, and we want to help that.
So I'm keeping in mind also that although the use of the technology will and may streamline the process, there are still people who still like the idea of showing up and then having in-person interaction. Yes. The doors still open for some immigrant who wants to get into the place, speak English or Asian Creole or French, and then ask for services or information. Is it still an open process? So
you very much can still get through the process in person as well. If, for example, if you're opening a restaurant and you would like to learn about the process in person, you can talk to folks in the Office of Business Development in City Hall to give an overview of everything, or you can start right in when the permits at Inspectional Services at 1010 Mass Ave, where there are now more people devoted to looking at plans right at the counter. And these plans examiners can tell you, you're missing this piece. You don't file it and come back and make sure you have the entire package together, and that way your application will move more quickly. So there are more staff available who are trained to help you through the process, definitely.
I would like to talk politics for a couple of minutes here. Sure. There are two things that are of interest. Over the past 2 or 3 years, it's clear that the composition of the City Council has drastically changed. And with the last elections, where you actually again came back, we also saw more women actually coming on board. Is that going to change either the dynamics of the City Council?
You know, it's funny, when I joined the council in 2013, we doubled our numbers from 1 to 2, and then this year we doubled again from 2 to 4. So still room to double, although I won't make my male colleagues nervous by saying that. I think anytime there's a change to, anytime new people come onto the council, there's a big shift in focus and dynamic. I think all of us, the 13 councillors who are serving now, who have had the privilege of, the 12 who I've had the privilege of working with, the new councillors about to start, everybody who gets into this business gets in because you care about the city and residents and making life better for families. So I think that focus and determination and dedication will stay the same. I do think that it's important what experiences you bring to the table, and the more diverse experiences we have represented, the better. And it's not just about, it's not about the individual people, the elected officials. You know, I don't think that it's important because I'm a woman or I'm an Asian American or I am a new mom, but it's the fact that people who are out in the community, who are new parents or women or Asian American or people of color, maybe will feel more connected to city government because they see you there. When I was growing up, I never thought that I would run for office because I didn't see anyone who looked like me. You know, I joke all the time that people told me growing up I should become a figure skater because Michelle Kwan was very famous then, and she was one of the very few Asian Americans. So we want to be conscious of what example we're setting.
And I keep in mind again that your parents came from Taiwan, which actually had always had good relationship with Haiti. And for me to finish, have you had a chance to visit any Haitian organizations since you started, or should they go to you, or do you have a chance to get
Yes, I would love to. You know, I've spent time in every neighborhood, and as the chair of the Arts and Culture Committee, really want to make sure to celebrate all of our cultures in Boston that really make the city strong. My goal over the next 2 years is to continue learning and visiting and listening to what our communities need.
So let me make sure that our organizations send you some invitation for the upcoming celebrations either in January or in May. As you know, those events bring usually 3,000 to 5,000 people in the streets of Mattapan to register. City Councillor, thank you again for accepting our invitation. I hope that we'll be able to have you again as a special guest starting next year.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot again. Merci.
Merci, merci beaucoup.
Again, this was a pleasure to have our City Councillor Michelle Wu, and then we'll make sure to send a second invitation to continue discussing some of those issues that are special to the community. Avec nos Charles Lucien, nous allons le proposer et puis nous allons retourner dans quelques instants avec le professeur Yvon Lamour.